Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastos, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Always nice to have you on board. We love this program. We always talk about good things, uplifting things, but we also deal with reality. You know, what's really going on out there and how can we help you with a problem? We like to solve problems, okay? We want to be peacemakers and not troublemakers. And following the news every day, there are so many stories to work on. But today I want to talk about something really interesting. I want to talk about an image, a good image, something that's important in your life, your reputation. Who are you? What do you stand for? We're talking about branding and how this is important in your business world, of course, but also in your personal life. I can't think of anybody better, an expert, a guru when it comes to public relations than Mindie Barnett. Say hi to Mindie. Hi, Mindie.
Hey, oh my gosh, you should be in PR for me. I love it.
You're
Thank
great.
you.
You know, people are going to hear you now and they're going to watch you. You are really an exceptional person. We've known each other a long time. And you're so good at what you do. Mindie is a hardworking person. And isn't that a big part of being successful, working hard and being sincere?
Yeah, and very sincere and always taking the high road. That's always been my MO. No matter what happens on the path behind you, always do the right thing.
Yeah.
Just because you want to be a good person, I believe in karma. And, you know, it comes back, right? So 100%.
Well,
but yes, hard work is 150%.
It's a big
the name
thing.
Of the game.
And you are one of the most sought after people in the public relations business. You've got a great success story, Mindie.
Thank you.
And I want people to know about you because you've got so many clients and a variety of clients, right? How do you pick and choose? Because sometimes people come to you and you say, well, I'm not quite sure if I want to represent, you know, this product or this company. How do you decide?
Well, I have to say, I always think about what their product or what their area of expertise might be, how they're going to serve the greater good of the public. Because back in my heyday, I was in news and I was on the receiving end of the pitches. And I always know as a reporter, journalist, and I still kind of identify myself a little bit in that lane, which I think helps me do my job as a publicist that much better. I know they're obviously just looking out and being an advocate for their readers, listeners, viewers, et cetera. So when I'm interviewing with a client, I think about what they bring to the table that's going to better the lives, whether it's information or product or they have a really great book or, whatever it may be. I can't say I've turned down too many. My biggest issue, I think, that I've kind of stumbled upon in my 20 plus years in the business now, has been more when people aren't really good with the media. They come off abrupt or they're not accommodating to the media. And that to me is a liability because I need, to keep the media, in good graces,
and
if you will, and serve them.
Your news background, having been a performer, being on the air and covering stories, you appreciate that because you know that's, I talked about image. And how important it is, and to be able to protect your reputation as well as the company that you're representing, because that's so important to you. Now, let me ask you this, because a lot of people out there are saying, you know what, when I'm watching either television or picking up a magazine, I'm on the internet and so forth, there is a plethora of material. We are bombarded constantly, pop-ups. You're on the telephone, there's an ad or something popping up all the time. How do you decide what direction to take with your client in terms of getting them the most exposure with all of this competition?
I watch the news, number one, religiously, all of the news, national, local, et cetera, and really see what's going on in the news cycle and what they bring to the table. I'll give you a really quick example. Yeah. So one of my clients is out actually in LA. It's a nonprofit for mental health, and we're recording this in October, right? It's Bullying Awareness Month. So not only am I pitched something tied in with Bullying Awareness Month, but researched what's going on in California specifically. And there's an uptick in culturalism as it pertains to bullying.
Okay.
A lot of Muslim students, a lot of African-American students and Latino students specifically in the LA vicinity are feeling that they're being bullied and they're scared to go to school. Right. So we pitched it along those lines because that's sort of what news you can use, right? It's compelling information.
Right.
And then my client's coming off as the expert, as she is, well-deserved, to speak to the research, also kind of come up with a solution to the research and offer advice for parents and educators watching what they can do to help curb the problem.
So you have to do, like we just said, your homework. You have to know what is the best way to position your client and your product. And then you go and you find the places where she or he belongs, and then you do it.
Exactly.
I find that fascinating because it's such a challenge, particularly now. Back in the days when there were only 3 networks and we didn't have the internet, it was a lot simpler, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, people watched X, Y, or Z, and that's where you got your information for the given day. But now, I hate to say it, social media, which isn't really obviously like regulated by any over government body in regards to fact checking and things like that, people can get scoop other stations and stuff. They get information from a variety of places. So you just want to know who the audience is. I always say, okay, here's my client. Who is who's their audience? Who it's their core customer? Who do they want to attract? Right. And then who's watching? And in the audience, where are they watching and where are they getting their news? And then I'll pitch those places.
Yep. Mindie, what everybody looks for is the payoff. Okay, everybody wants to know. Okay, if I do A, B, and C, what am I going to get for it?
Right.
So, from your experience working with your clients and just seeing what goes on in the industry. Is it worth it? Is it worth spending the money and putting in the time to present your product? Or people will say, oh, I'd rather do word of mouth or something like that. What do you say? I
say it's not worth it's definitely worth it. And it's more of a detriment if you don't do it, right? You have to do something.
Right.
PR, and I'm not just saying this because I'm in the industry, I speak for my colleagues in the field too. It's obviously much more cost effective than if you were placing an ad or something along those lines on television or radio or print. And you're also getting more time in terms of sharing your message, and you're being positioned as a thought leader, and it's a third-party messenger. People watching, listening, reading know that you wasn't paid for. I mean, not everybody knows people have PR people. Right. Some people don't, but most that are on regularly do. But nevertheless, the news isn't going to pick up one of my pitches just because I sent them the pitch. Doesn't matter if I'm friends with them or not. It's because it's a good story. You have to have a lot of contacts. You have to have a lot of people skills. And you do. Yeah. You do. Because you're the hardest working person I know. Because every time I call you, I find that hard to believe.
No, you're pretty hardworking. I really mean that. Because every time, and plus the fact that I appreciate people who respond. And when someone writes to me, when someone calls me, I try to get back to them right away because it's a sign of respect.
Totally.
And it's also professional to do that. And a lot of people, will just say, I don't care anymore. You have done so much. You've written 2 books. 2 wonderful books.
Thank you.
And you can talk about the books and why you wrote them and what the message is. I know Intermission is a great book as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first book. Yeah. I wrote that really as a form of therapy for myself initially. I wrote that coming out of my divorce. I've now been divorced 8 years, and it's amicable, and we get along great.
Good.
And it started more as more of a guide for co-parenting. Yeah. And then I just shared about what I went through mentally and things like that to make the decision to proceed. So that was what I used as an example. But the mission of the book is really to encourage people to pause, not be patient with themselves, dig deep into their soul, and have courage to make change if they need to have change.
Because did you get good feedback on that book?
I did. You did. Yeah. And it launched my public speaking, keynoting, and things like that, which is really also part of the reason why when I started writing it, I decided I wanted to get into
Mindie, isn't it great, when you do something and you put your heart into it?
Yeah.
That you get good feedback, and even if it's just from 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
Right? You feel wow, I reached somebody. I did something good with this.
Yeah.
You have another book.
Yes, I do. It has a little curse word in it, but it's about women empowerment and about why women compete, when it's healthy to compete, when it's unhealthy to compete. That's part memoir. The first book I should mention is full-on memoir. Right. This is part memoir and also part research. I interviewed a psychologist, and I have some case studies in there and as well, and things of that nature. Yeah. But in a nutshell, it's really about leading with empathy.
That's what it says here. The title is "You Don't Need to Be a Blank to Be a Boss." Okay, right. You fill in the word. Right. How to flaunt femininity, embrace empathy, and win with a vengeance.
Right. So you don't want to be soft. Yeah. We don't want to be soft, but we also don't want to be harsh. We always want to, like I said earlier, do the right thing, take the high road, do good business, spread good cheer, spread goodwill, and you're going to succeed. So it's really about that. But specifically for me, I do have a small team, a very talented team, I might say, and the inspiration of the book was a blank that I worked for a very short-lived time in PR, not TV, and really learned from that experience how I didn't want to be. So I'm grateful for that experience because it taught me a lot. And also, I do believe when you lead with fear, you don't get anywhere. Right. So always lead with kindness. I talk about like allowing your team to make mistakes and the difference between that and a mishap and things like that.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
So, Mindie, I have to say this. I'm married, and I have a daughter and a son as well, but a daughter. I have a daughter-in-law. Yeah. I've got a couple of grandchildren, and I've worked with a lot of women as co-anchors in this business. And I love seeing so much progress that's come along. Because, years back, only the men were on the air and the women were not. And now we're just seeing such a turnover, which is wonderful. Yes. And I really support that with all my heart.
I know you do.
It really makes a difference to see that. I know. And there's still more to go. There's still more to go. You know that. And you work towards that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. I do my best in my part to kind of like keep breaking that glass ceiling, so to speak, for sure. But yeah, no, you're one of a kind in that way. Well, I appreciate in a lot of ways, but for sure.
Thank you, Mindie. I appreciate that. Now, if there are people, because we have so many viewers and listeners, and who are probably saying, you know what, I'm a college student, or I'm thinking about going to college, or I just graduated, and I love public relations. I love being in that business. What advice do you have for someone who wants to get into this and maybe eventually be like you, be your own boss? How do you do that?
I love that. I'm all about mentoring. Talk about that in this book as well, actually. I would say, let's stick with the college-aged person, so to speak. Definitely hone the writing skills. At least the way I do PR, it's very, very important to be a strong writer because my pitches are like mini news stories. Yeah. Know the news. I actually encourage our interns to do an internship in news, whether it be in print or radio or a television station, which is my area of expertise in my background. Just because when you know what it's like to be on the other side of the proverbial fence, you do your job that much better as a publicist. You appreciate deadlines. You know what it's like, on the receiving end of pitches and things, and you understand the in and out of the way the business and the news cycle works overall. And then, obviously, I would say starting in an agency, a small firm like mine is probably a good place to start because you'll get a lot of hands-on experience. I have a lot of young talent in my team and I groom them and I see them fly. Some stay, thankfully, cross my fingers. That's always my goal, but I never want to hold people back. And I'm very proud that a lot of I've had a former employee who went on to work for the Comcast, in corporate headquarters in Philadelphia. I have another one that works for a publishing company. Like they've gone on to one started her own firm in Denver. So it makes me very proud that I have a small hand in their success and teaching them the ropes.
Well, I like what you're saying about being aware and reading and watching, because in the news business, you do learn a lot. You learn how to present a story. One of the things that we've always done in the newsroom is every time we'd get ready to do the next day's news and preparing for our meetings, how do we advance the story? You're always looking for, okay, we reported this yesterday, but how do we advance it? What's new today?
Yes.
So you have to do that in public relations as well.
Yes, I do that all the time with my team.
Exactly.
Let's advance it. Like
how
something ran, or like there's a study, and maybe it was on CNN or something, and I'm like, stop pitching the same thing. They just covered it, but let's advance it. Like, what else can we bring to the table that hasn't been covered yet?
And another line that we use often, don't bury the lead.
Yeah.
Because many times, you write a story, and then towards the end of the story, you've got a chunk of information, a real nugget, and you say, that should be at the top.
Yes.
So that's what you learn when you're involved in journalism in any form.
Yes, 100%. And same thing with pitches. I say to them, these reporters are getting hundreds of pitches a day, plus all of their internal emails that they have to go through. You literally have like 2 seconds to catch their attention. And it can't be sensational, certainly. It's got to be factual, but you need to make it compelling and you need to tell them what the story is about in like that one sentence.
Let me ask you this, because this is kind of a serious area too, and that's artificial intelligence and the misuse of the power of the media. You know that there is a lot going on out there. There are fake images that are being presented, fake stories. That's a serious problem, Mindie.
It is.
And you and I are in the same industry, the same business. How do we work to prevent some of that? How do we fight that? Because that's a serious problem, and it's also extremely harmful. And you can take it in different directions. Use it in the media.
Yeah.
The dissemination of information, but also with young people, young kids.
Yeah.
Their faces, their bodies, their reputations are destroyed.
Yes.
Because of the misuse of this great technology that's out there.
Yes. That's a great question, Ernie. And sadly, I don't have like a really good answer for it. But, having repped and still repping a technology, big in technology company, I know that, the tech companies, big tech has to take their own due diligence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great, obviously, that the AI, platforms do. We're very lucky to have that in our back pockets now. But I think that they need to figure out a way so that it isn't abused. I can tell you two quick, not funny, but like two quick personal stories. So on top of everything you just said, I'm also, thankfully, in my last term of graduate school for clinical psychology. But I had a classmate that wrote his term paper with AI and got expelled. So they do like fact checks and they can do like screenings. You have to submit it to a certain platform when you submit papers. So I mean, that's obviously a university and it's a graduate program. So they have the bandwidth to do that. I don't know if every school in America can afford that, but nevertheless, that was something that came about and I was like, it's fair. It's and then I have colleagues that write press releases with AI. I won't do that. I mean, I like to write. I love to write. I still feel like I'm a journalist. But I think there's so much more when you sit down with pen and paper, keyboard and fingers and paying it out yourself. It's your own brain. It's your own knowledge. It's your own stamp, of you.
And Mindie, with all due respect, a lot of people will say there's always a plus and a minus with anything. There may be some use of AI in terms of gathering information to be able to utilize in your article, and and not particularly, just having the whole thing written without any real sense of touch and feel to the story.
Right.
So, we have to monitor all these things. I want people also to know a little bit more about you because, here you are, you're doing so many wonderful things. You're a highly successful person. And you're a great role model for a lot of people. But you're also a mom. You've got 2 wonderful children.
Thanks.
And you care about that.
Yeah.
And that's an important side of you that people should see and say, you know what, here's a woman who's extremely successful, but, she also has these personal values, and she has a life, and that life helps you with your work, doesn't it?
It does. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah. Yes, I have a 16-year-old daughter, Ariel, and I have a 13-year-old son, Julian, who are literally the greatest gifts that I've ever had, or ever will have, truthfully, and bring me so much joy and give me so much purpose and a reason to get up and work really hard for them and provide them with a nice life, as their dad does too. But nevertheless, it gives me like a sense of peace most days. Most days, not all days.
Yeah, well, I understand. I'm a parent.
Depending on what's going on in a given moment. But it definitely like an escape from the hustle and bustle of like the day-to-day work life that I lead.
There's nothing like it. I mean, children are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Particularly, I love all the ages, but particularly when they're very young.
Oh my goodness,
they're so sweet. And they're so innocent and pure.
Yes.
And over the years covering news in New York for 4 decades, the stories, every story, you could talk about sensitivity, and you have to be aware of that. But I would always really so uncomfortable when children were harmed, when elderly were harmed, animals, innocent. And they're so pure. But as they grow up and as they develop, and to see that love coming back to you, what you've given them and comes back to you, there's nothing like it.
I know. And see them become like independent and develop their own personalities and in their own driven, paths that they want to take and things like that. It's really special.
I always ask kind of my final question, and that is, if you were to pass on some advice to a newborn, something that they might be able to, look at later in life, you make a little notation and say, I want you to remember this. Is there something that you can share as a parent, as a mom, but also as a very successful business person, as a woman? What would you want to share with a newborn to say, maybe this will help you in your life?
Okay, so this is something that I've learned, and I'm still trying to take this advice myself today, okay? But I think planning and having a roadmap is important. I've always been a goal setter. And when I reach a goal, I'm setting the next goal. And sometimes I'm setting the next goal before I reach the goal. But taking a moment to enjoy the journey and not worry so much about tomorrow and just be it sounds cliche, but just try to be as present as you possibly can. Yes. I think I loved college. I went to Hofstra, by the way. But I loved it. But I was so dead set about getting in my first news job that I really literally I thought about it every single day of my college career. Right. And I don't want to say I missed out on things, but I think I could have enjoyed my time there probably more, knowing that I wasn't going to need to worry, because eventually you always land where you need to land, and everything works out. So not worry as much, maybe. Not worry as much. I like that's good advice. Now, if people want to reach you, if they want to get to you and say, okay, I want to take advantage of your services and what you have to offer, tell everybody how they can reach you. Okay. Go ahead, so Mindie. Instagram is Mindie, and it's MINDIE .Barnett. And I have a website for my PR firm, which is rather long, but it's MB and Associates. PR.com, and is spelled out. And I do obviously regular PR campaigns. We rep authors in a variety of industries. I do media coaching, and I also do PR coaching. If you don't necessarily have a budget to hire a firm like myself, or mine, I should say, you can hire me on an hourly rate, and I will help you craft a pitch and help you learn how to do it and give you some tools that you can put in your toolbox. There you go. You are terrific. We heard a lot from you today. Thank you. And some really good inspirational ideas. There's a great quote that I would like to end with now that I'm thinking about it. Yes. Your life should speak louder than your words. And you spoke a lot today, but your life, everybody who knows you, including me, who sees you in action,
that speaks louder than anything you could ever say, because that is a true example of who you are.
Thank you, Ernie.
Great stuff. Mindie Barnett, a real classy act who knows what she's talking about, and I was honored to have you on my program
Oh,
tonight.
I'm honored to be here.
Great to be with you.
Likewise.
Mindie Barnett. Thanks
you.
so much, okay? I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you next time, okay? Bye.